like I knew, but I also didn't know. Like, I'm not over it apparently. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lexi. If you're new here, please subscribe down below. I have been posting a little more recently, and I am trying to do that a little more because this has been so fun. So subscribe so you don't miss any of that. Today's topic I want to go over is the transition from being like a student athlete in college or even high school, depending on like the person's avenue they go on, and being a normal person, not having everything tied to being an athlete, which can be a really difficult transition, not necessarily physically. Also, there is some difficulties physically, but also mentally. A lot of it is a large mental struggle, and I don't see it talked about as often because everyone just kind of pictures like a student athlete to have a pretty easy life and it's fun and like you're a student athlete and that's just like what it is, but no one seems to talk a lot about how difficult the transition is out of that being your only identity. And yeah, that's something I kind of want to talk about because it took me a while, and I'm sure for others, I'm sure other people like boys and girls and everyone else can also attest to like how hard that like mind shift is. And so yeah, that is what we're going to dive into today, and I hope you enjoy the video. Alright, the first thing I want to talk about with the transition is the physical side of it and how like that affects you, and then we'll dive kind of like into the like more mental and like mental health and all of that, like that side of it, because while they're intertwined, they're also both separate in nature and they both play like impacts separately and together. So the first portion of that is like obviously you're going from working out extremely hard, anywhere from 1 to like 3, 4, 5 times a day, depending on the sport, depending on what part of season you're in. You're going from exerting a lot of energy working out heavily to potentially not working out at all or working out once, because there's like this weird freedom aspect of it. That was something I was very excited for, was to have the freedom aspect of not having someone else control every aspect of my day. You know, I have to wake up at this time to get to practice. I have to do this between this time so I can go to class, and then I have to make sure I have lunch so that for practice I don't feel like I'm gonna faint. And someone's telling me like when to do this, like when to have classes, when I'm gonna work out, and that's a really big transition, is finally having that freedom. It's very nice, but at the same time you can go from working out anywhere from 1 to 5 times a day to once or like none, and that makes a really large impact on your body in many aspects, you know, physiological, you know, your weight, your cardiovascular, anything like that. Even I guess like your mental health, like exercise plays a large role in the serotonin and dopamine and all of that comes with working out, and so that's a really big aspect of it. And also like a big change in that is how hard you push yourself in workouts. You personally will never push yourself as hard as someone else does, a coach, an athletic trainer, and that's a reason why a lot of people have to get trainers to like lose weight or have someone like hold them accountable, because although you know you can push your body further than your mind lets you, it is very hard to do that on your own. The amount of physical exertion you can have and like how far you can push your body is extremely liberating and extremely different, and it's very exciting to feel and know, but it's very hard to emulate that by yourself outside of basketball. And that is a large change. The way I lift and the way like I work out is nowhere near as intense as the way a physical trainer, like personal trainer, especially in an athletic setting, like for just pure athletic development, no aesthetics involved, is so much different. And it is very hard to emulate that because you can go easier on yourself. You don't have someone else there to like hold you accountable. And so that is a huge aspect, and a lot of self you know, like reflection, and like you have to be the one now to like push yourself, because you no longer have the goal of being in shape just for athletic potential, just so that you can perform at the highest level possible for you. You now have to do it for yourself. If you want to maintain that, you can. You know, for some people it is a lot easier of a transition. For me, it was very difficult. I can talk about in other videos the kind of like mindset I was in and how like my 4 years impacted me, because while it was phenomenal, it also had a lot of downsides to it, and it plays a role on the transition period from going from being a student athlete to like now, like you're not. It's like the simplest way to put it. Like you go from that being your whole life, like everything you do, everything you think about is involving that, to now it's just school, like you, maybe your career, because usually it's like when your 4 years is up. And so now like your mindset has to switch, and it's a very difficult one. I didn't expect it to be so difficult, but there's nothing really there to prepare you, because like 1 minute, you know, you're playing and it's your last game, and like the next, like it's done. Can't believe I'm crying. It's been 2 years, love that for me. Okay. And yeah, you know, you've been working your entire life for this. Like for me, like as an example, because this is my experience, my channel. So for me, I started playing like rec basketball in like 1st grade, and then obviously you play rec for a few years, and I started playing like competitive in 4th grade. I would play up age groups so that I could play competitive instead of rec, because rec is trash. I was trash to begin with. Like when I was really young, I didn't expect, my parents especially didn't expect me to be anywhere near decent by the way it was looking when I was little, but oh, look at me now. I essentially started in 4th grade. How old are you in 4th grade? In 4th or 5th grade, you know, you're like 9 or 10. And then you're playing from 9 or 10 all the way up until like, I think was almost 22. I was like 21, turning 22 the next month, and it's just over. You know, it's your whole life. Like that's how you identify. You know, you're a student athlete. That's like all you ever like identify as. In high school, in college, you know, when the teachers or professors make you play icebreakers, it's like, what's your name? Where are you from? Something about you. It's always like, oh, my name's Lexi, I'm from Colorado, I'm a student athlete. Like that's your identifier, and that's how everyone knows you. You know, you're always wearing your team gear. You're like a branded, like my mom calls it a branded like mule. Like you're a cow, like you're branded, like you're always wearing, like you're a blank university basketball player. You know, it's like your whole identity. It's like who you are. It's like so much a part of you. That's like all you ever have been. And so that transition from like, that's your identity. I'm a student athlete, you know, like it's who you are. Now you have to figure out who you actually are. And you don't know how you're going to feel when it's over. That's not really something that your mind is on while you're currently in your last season. And, you know, it's your senior season. It's like all that hype is around it. And so that hype all year long, like it's your senior season, then it's your senior night, and then, you know, you're in the conference tournament, and then it's done. And then like all of that peak came crashing down. Just with my experience, a lot of people will continue to work out in the postseason after they have had their senior year, because once you're a senior year, you are no longer required to participate in postseason, which is just to keep your conditioning up so that you don't just fly off the deep end before the next season and you have to like get all of your cardiovascular and like conditioning back. I didn't participate in mine. I did not want to run sprints anymore. I didn't need to run sprints anymore. I was done with sprints. I was done running and I was done sprinting. I'll walk on an inclined treadmill for an hour and a half before I will do sprints again. And I was fine with that. I'm still fine with that. I'm still not gonna go sprint. I don't sprint. I won't sprint. And I'm still not gonna sprint. I hate sprinting. But I didn't go to conditioning either, which is lifting. I didn't continue with that, even though we had an amazing trainer and it was an amazing strength progression workout format he had. I was just ready for the freedom of not having someone controlling my every move, my every decision, and that was the part of it that was nice and exciting. That transition was being free, you know. Now I just could go to class, and if after class, my class ended at 1, I wanted to go to the beach because I went to school in Miami, I went to the beach. And so that part of it was extremely freeing and something I really needed, and not working out like I was something I really needed for like obviously like my shins and some of like the little injuries I was dealing with and all the soreness, but also just like for me, like my mental health. Like I had a lot of emotions and things I had to battle with like inside myself with basketball and with like my specific experience, and so for me, I needed to like be away from that. Having that freedom was much needed, but it was also very hard at the same time. And I know that's like kind of confusing, but you have so many conflicting emotions about that. You know, it's hard because your body's changing because you're not working out as much, and so like that's hard to deal with, and then you haven't like come to terms with the fact that like you're no longer a student athlete and you're no longer like getting to play, like you never get to play like a competitive, unless you go overseas or like are professional in some way, like you never get that feeling again. And that's like what your identity is. There's not really resources for how you're supposed to feel and how you're supposed to deal with like not being a student athlete anymore. It's not something that's focused on, really taken like seriously, because it's just like, oh well, like you're just a student now, like go figure it out. And well, like that's fine and dandy for some people. It's very difficult, and sometimes like it's something that you deal with a lot on your own or like internally. I think it's something we need to talk about more. I think everyone sees like the glamorous side of athletics, like, you know, they see like those lottery picks, especially in men's basketball a lot. Like you see like Zion and how, you know, he got to go to Duke and now he's first draft pick for New Orleans and that type of thing. Like you see the super glamorous side of it, but there's a lot of unglamorous sides of it that people don't talk about as much, because a lot of it is mainly focused on the positive sides, and it is extremely positive, but there are other things to talk about, and there needs to be like resources for those who don't know how to maybe handle their emotions or don't know like what emotions they're having or like how like you're supposed to feel. And I think talking about that and like bringing that to the light can really help other people. I didn't really talk about it too much with a lot of my teammates. We had like 5 seniors when I was a senior, and I'm not entirely sure how a lot of them felt about it. Like I made Instagram posts like a year later, like when it was season, for like a throwback, you know, because that's what you do, and about how like I love basketball, but like a lot of my experience took a lot out of me, and it took a lot of that love away for a while, and it took me, clearly it's taking me longer, it's going to take me longer than these 2 years to get all of that back, but I'm trying. And on that note, I just want to say, like, for a lot of people who play sports and then, you know, play collegiate sports, that was their like first love. Like basketball was like the first thing like I fell in love with and like made me happy, and like I fully like dove into it, and it was like my favorite thing, and it still is. Like I still love to watch basketball. Like I love everything about basketball. I just do not play anymore, and I don't feel the need. So I don't play because I don't know, it brings up those feelings, and I wish it didn't. Clearly I'm not over it. I didn't realize. Like I knew, but I also didn't know. Like I'm not over it apparently. 'Cause, like for me, basketball was the first thing like I ever loved. You know, like I fell in love with the game and like how it made me feel, and just like I was always happy, and like I'm so competitive, and it was just such an amazing outlet for me as a kid, and it allowed me to do like what I've done today. You know, like I got to move from my home city and like home state to 2 different 4-year universities, in other parts of the country to like really grow, and I'm really thankful for that, because like I don't know if that would have happened without basketball, and so I'm so thankful for it, and I love it, and I always will love it. I would just say that there was a long time where I guess you would say like I didn't love it anymore. I didn't feel the same way that I had as like a kid or anything, and that was on the mental side like the hardest part for me, and that's why that transition from being a student athlete to not was really difficult at the same time as it was freeing for me. So I clearly got a little emotional because I truly love basketball. I loved it then, I love it now, and I have gained a lot of that love that was lost back, and so that has been really nice, and that is why I am trying to make this content. It's because I know someone else out there feels the same, but also like in a different way, because obviously everyone's situation is different, and I'm just hoping that others out there can connect with this and know that they're not alone, because it's not something we talk about a lot, and that's something I would like to bring light to in these videos on my channel, and I want to talk about my experience a lot. And if that is something, you know, you guys like, if you want to keep seeing these videos, give it a thumbs up and let me know in the comments. Comment down any questions or comments, any stories you guys have. I would love to hear how other people feel about this situation, or if you want to know more, just let me know down below, and don't forget to subscribe. Like I said, give this video a thumbs up because it really supports my channel, and I will leave my socials down below as well. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.